What more? Here and then here.
I'm delighted to be here, and the more burning question for me is, I have 2 children, and they are really different from each other, and I notice how one of my children allows much more easily than the other one, and I want to understand that.
Well, we want to talk to you about that too, but before we do, we want to talk about your allowing relative to them.
That's really at the crux of everything, of course.
In other words, when your child allows, it's easier for you to allow as that one is allowing. In other words, but when one is not allowing and you find yourself concerned about it, now you are using that one as the excuse not to allow. And so whenever we talk to anyone about facilitating a relationship, we're always wanting to be certain, and we know you understand, that we want to be certain that you understand that it is all about what you are doing relative to them, and it really doesn't have anything to do about what you will teach them to do. Because it is through the power of your example that they receive their benefit anyway.
Right.
So give us a little more detail. In other words, why are we having this discussion?
I think the reason that it's a burning question for me is, I think if you're absolutely right that I don't allow my child who doesn't allow to not allow. I mean, I don't want to allow him to.
You know you're really an allower when you're able to allow someone who's not allowing you.
Yes.
In other words,
and there's my work.
Yes. But what we are getting at here is that this is exactly what we were talking about earlier about unconditional love. You see, it's one thing. Many times parents will say, well, this child does what I want, and so I feel good, and this child does not do what I want, and so I do not feel good. And this is not so far from that, because what you want for both of them is to be in a state of allowing the fullness of who they are to flow through them.
Precisely.
So when you see one tuned in, tapped in, turned on, you feel wonderful because this one is tuned in, and then when you see the other one that is not, then you do not feel so good. And we say what we would do if we were standing in your physical shoes is just look at the one who is, or imagine the one who isn't in a place of allowing. In other words, you have to practice it in your own mind, and do not give too much attention to what is not happening. Because when you shine a spotlight on it, you know this, when you shine a spotlight on it, all that happens is you join that one in the vibration of disconnection. Mm-hmm. And then there's just 2 of you sort of banging around in a place of disconnection.
Right. I keep thinking that if I hear something like, well, he came with that intention, that I would be able to be more allowing of it.
Well, he came with that intention.
Thank you.
We mean that. In other words, we are playing with you a little bit. But we want to give you another piece to this. This may be an easier way for you to look at this. When you are looking at the situation, it's difficult not to notice what it is. In other words, you can't look at something without including it in your vibration. And since you're all in there together, it's not, we're not really believing that anyone could just withdraw this from your attention altogether. But then when you are apart, as you are today, so what happens is, in that exposure to those experiences, you feel a desire relative to the one that is not well connected. And what is the desire? Can you verbalize it here?
I want him to soar. I want him to be connected to who he really is and find his passion in life and feel fabulous.
All right. Now, we can feel how powerfully you want that. In other words, this is a desire that you've practiced and felt and honed for some time. So now that desire is there, and when you are feeling discomfort about him not being there, then you are not a vibrational match to your own desire. And that's the thing that we want to talk to you about. Once your exposure to that has given birth to a desire within you, now it is only your relationship between you and your desire that we want to talk about. We don't want to talk about them anymore. In other words, they have given birth to the desire. Now it's the relationship between you and you and you and you and you and you and you that we want to talk about. And so now you have this desire and you articulated it magnificently. And so now you're walking along through your day and you observe something, him not in connection, and that discomfort that you feel in your stomach is because your guidance system is saying to you, hey, in this moment, you're not a vibrational match to what you said you wanted. You've been exposed to these conditions and offering rocket after rocket after rocket after rocket. The universe is hearing your rockets and answering every one of them, but you are, by virtue of what you are observing, holding yourself in vibrational discord to your own desire, you see. So now what you want to do is withdraw your attention from whatever has inflamed the discord and go off to yourself and practice the vision of what you are wanting so that you become aligned with you. And when you are aligned with you, in other words, when you are not disallowing the desire that you have given birth to with the help of the experience that they are exposing you to, when you are aligned with you, you are more powerful than a million who are not. In other words, when you are in sync with your vibration, you are a powerful influencer. And then you can be like Jesus or like so many of the other teachers, healers, masters, mentors, as you hold your son who is disconnected in this moment as your object of attention, but you have practiced so well the vision of who he really is that he is not dissuading you from your knowing. In other words, you could even observe him in his tantrum, and your knowledge of his well-being is so supreme that his tantrum does not even affect your vibration at all because you have connected to source energy, and so you are flooding it unconditionally all over him. And under those conditions, you guide him or influence him back into connection. But if you respond as so many do, you've practiced the connection, you like how it feels, you want it, then you walk into a room and there he is in his disconnection. Tantrum is much too strong of word, but we are, and so you see him in his disconnection and you want to be there for him. You want to be the kind, caring, loving mother that is there, and so you get involved, you ask what's wrong, you listen to him, you observe him, you let his vibration set the tone within you until you join him in the vibration of disconnection rather than maintaining your vibration of connection. Now you have nothing to give him.
Right.
And your discomfort is further inflamed because you wanted to be here. And now there cannot help but be a little resentment that if it weren't for him in this moment, you would be there, you see.
I know.
And so the true essence of unconditional love is saying, I want so much to be connected to source energy. I want it for you, my beloved children, but I must be connected to source energy because it is life itself. And so I'm not going to give you much of my attention in your disconnection in order to maintain my connection. We were giving this to someone one day, and she said, but will not he feel ignored? In other words, if I keep turning the other cheek, will he not feel ignored? And we say, he will not feel ignored as you ignore his disconnection if you are practicing connection relative to him in your mind. In other words, if your child says, oh, you don't think about me anymore, you don't give me my attention, any attention, you give all of your attention to the bright-eyed, bushy-tailed sibling, and you don't give me any attention, what you say clearly is, I think about you all the time. As I was going to bed last night, I was remembering that wonderful thing that you did or said back when. I was looking through the scrapbook, and I was thinking how blessed I am to have someone like you in my experience. I made a list of all of the funny things you do. You light my life in so many ways. And let me tell you some of the ways. I've just been thinking about them lately. And as you've been practicing, you just give him a barrage of well-being relative to him that you've been practicing until there is no doubt in his mind that he is not being ignored. He may not be vibrationally up to speed with you. He may stomp off because there's no one really likes some bright-eyed, bushy-tailed person in their face when they're disconnected. In other words, and nobody wants to be told that they're the creator of their own reality when things aren't going well either. And so what you're wanting to do is just stay so connected relative to him that it becomes a non-issue as far as you are concerned. And when that happens, he'll come up to speed because that is his natural. His cork naturally floats, you see. Mm-hmm. Parents they have a hard job because you want such well-being for your children that you are more likely to scrutinize every moment of their experience. And you, above all people, are more likely to notice when they're not connected than anybody else on the planet. And then when you take action from that place of notice, then things really get off into a spiral, you see.
So practice seeing him in his connection when I'm not with him.
Yes, and even when he's not in his connection, don't give too much attention to it. You see, sometimes parents have a hard time hearing this from us, but we say your children really are better off if you just give birth and leave them alone. You see, and even better if you could give birth and just expect good things to come to them.
Right.
But when you give birth and worry, then you sort of create a little wall, a pattern of resistance around them, and then they begin to associate that. And we're not giving you in any way the credit or the blame for anything that happens, but we're just saying if you would just sort of lighten up on the subject a little bit. What we've noticed is that very often those parents who want more than anything to be the best of parents are those that scrutinize so much that they hold themselves, and really your child would be better off if you didn't think about them at all rather than being in a worrisome place. Do you know that a mother cannot love her child and worry about her child at the same time? They are two opposite vibrations. You'll hear much more as we are moving forward. You're ready for a segment of refreshment? We are complete.